Okay, so this is part 2 of building National Hive from scratch. We have so far made a floor for a National Hive with a Varroa mesh on the bottom. Nice and simple. So next step up from that is the brood box. So we're going to make a brood box. So first thing is I'm going to put these away, and then we're going to go to the shed and we're going to get out some timber. For our brood boxes, they want to be about 225, so just under 9 inches, which these boards are going to do, just about. So each one is 460 square, so that's going to be, I'm going to split it down into metre lengths probably. So each metre will give us 1/2 of a brood box. So I'm going to need 2 metres per box. I'm going to need 6 metres worth of timber. It's going to be a couple of lengths of this, I think, basically. I want to go for relatively nice clean boards. I can use some of the more resinous stuff, but I don't like sanding up so much for my other things. How much have we got here? Okay, so we've got the lengths in here now. We can mess about with some lengths. Always trying to get stuff short enough to actually use in my workshop. So on the ends you quite often get some splits, so if you have a look, you might not see it. There's a bit of a split there, and a bit of a split there, and a bit of a split there. So we're going to cut off, when we're measuring up, we'll mark off a bit like that. Just in case, and then we've got 460s, haven't we, I said. So if we do it 460, 5 foot piece, will give us 3 pieces. So now I just need enough then to make up the 3 brood boxes that I want to make. So I'll measure this up. Right, so these boards need plane down to 18mm, and they got the 225 or just over, which will plane down as well afterwards, or rip down. A few of these boards got a few splits in, unfortunately. The risk with bigger, wider boards. So what I've done is I've got an extra piece, and I'm going to run that through as well, because nothing worse than getting towards the end and thinking, I'm 1 piece short and it's split and I don't want to use it. So I'd rather have some extra for the cost of it. So each one of these boards is probably costing me about 9 quid actually. So a brood box could be about 12 quid in timber, maybe a bit more with the struts in there and the rails. So probably actually with the rails as well, probably about 15 quid in timber each brood box. So when you look at buying stuff from the seconds and things like that, then it's going to be cheaper to buy it. But there is a satisfaction to be made on making it yourself. Okay, so now I am going to cross-cut some of these to 460. So I need 6 of these to make 3 brood boxes. Probably easier to make more, to be honest with you, in one go, but I'm only just getting into it, don't want to be too ready. Sure I could sell my excess anyway, so. Okay, so I'm going to do this to 18mm thick. So an 18mm router bit. And this is to make the rebate, which will be on every piece. So this is the 2 end pieces, and this piece is going to sit into it. I'll leave that running. But just before I start routing, I've got this super here, and I measured from there to the inside of that rebate. It's about 44mm. So I'm going to set it up now onto the scrap piece and see how it cuts. And as long as it gives me the inside measurement that I'm looking for, which is 371. So as long as I get that, then I can route them all. Okay, with a rebate about 3mm deep on each of them, We can now work out what we need to get 460 outside to outside. So I'm going to have to cut that 429. So if I cut 6 of those at 429, that's the main pieces cut. Right, next thing is to rip down the side pieces. So we're going to have the strengthening bars in there as well. What we've got, I'm going to use some frame runners for these. And what we need to work out is how thick this needs to be. So, as you can see on this one, so we've got this is a super, admittedly, but you can see when it's sat on the frame runners, right, that's flush. So when you get your hive tool in there, you can slide it all the way across and break the seal, and you're not having to dip down or up, and the bees can't properlize it too much. Yeah, so that's flush at the top. And then at the bottom, I just grab just grab a ruler. At the bottom, so we've got this, hard to show on camera. Imagine it's on that side, look, you can see it there. And then I think this gap here between the bottom and that is meant to be 9 millimeters, which it is, okay? So that's quite easy in a way to work out for us now, because what we can do, and that gives the appropriate like bee space and stuff. We've got my frame runners there. We'll slip that on the top, and then that can just go in there now. Oh, it's a little bit tight. In there until it's flush, right? And that is about perfect. I can feel that's flush there. Yep. And then all we have to do with our tape measure, Butterfinger. So all we have to do then is measure up from the bottom here, 9 millimeters. Nice sharp pencil. 9 mil. And we'll transfer that line across. And we can see what we're left with between there and there. On this one and with these size frame runners. So it might be different with your frame runners, or if you're going to do it with the sloping one like I have done on a previous video to making a super out of reclaimed timber, you might want it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, so you have to kind of account for it that way. But with the frame runners I've got, it's looking like it wants to be 2002. So I'm going to rip these down at 200. No, I'm not. 202. Otherwise that'd be really low, wouldn't it? It'd be 2 meters. 202. So I'll rip these down now. That is a job done. And then we can look at doing the strengthening bars and the tenons and mortises for them. Next bit comes these strengthening bars, which are a little bit of a pain to make and joint, because I'm going to have to do some of it by hand because I haven't got a mortiser at the moment. But these measure, I think, about 44, that's probably 44 before it's cut down, 44 by whatever we've got left between the edge of this rebate and the edge of there. So it's going to be about 25, I reckon. Okay, 26. So I'm going to get some timber for that now. I'm going to rip some extra ones of these down because we're going to make some supers as well. So at least I've got those bars done for the supers when it comes time. Right, so a bit of stock rotation here. This one's been in the other shed for quite a while. Still Scandinavian redwood, still a nice piece of timber, but just wants a bit more planing off it. This is 32mm thick, we need to get it down to 26, or 26.5. And I'm going to divide it up now into metre lengths, which will give me the two. You get 2 lots out of each one, and I'm going to rip it down to 50mm, and then we'll surface it and plane it for this. And I'm doing extra, like I said, so I'm going to get 4 rips out of each one of these, but I don't think it's going to bother me having extra ones of these sat around, really. So you need to cut over to plane it down. Okay, so the next bit is we're going to have to make the joints for the rails to sit into on the longboards. This is an offcut, but I'm just using just to get it kind of set somewhere near. I'm going to use a router table with this slide-in mitre gauge on here. Just going to hold it, and it's going to go through there. And you see I've made 2 cuts on this piece already. And what I'll do is I'll do it in 2 stages. So that'll cut the first half, then the next half will go up to this housing joint here. Okay? And we'll do that on all of them. And it's a case of doing it from one side, flipping it around, do it from the other, over, over. So all 4 of those will be in the same place, just to make it easier. Okay, now with these bits cut, what we can do is we can lower the bit down, so it's going to be the same height as that. We can set the fence so it's going to be just out to there, so it won't go any further, and then we can cut the one side of these tenons. So I've got one side off, take the other side off to form the tenon. So I'm just altering the height of this now. And I'll just make a few adjustments. That's what we're trying to get. That's gone really nice. So I'll just do all the rest of those. I've done enough for the supers as well. Right, honestly, making a national frame is a bit of a pain because of these blinking support rails. They do make it quite tricky. So we've got our tenons cut on the end. Now what we need to do, so if we have a look at this super I've got here, we need to cut these rebates on these ones, smaller, and then we got to cut a slope on one of them. It seems like I mean, it's great if you're making thousands, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter. I'm making 6 with 3 supers. Bit of a pain. Imagine this is going to go here, so we're going to need to take out this section of wood here. We can do that on the router table again. That router table was pulling a little bit when I was doing these, and it's because I'm using a bit that you don't ever want to take off more than half the diameter of what you're doing. And I was using the whole bit, which is bad practice really. I've got a much bigger router bit, and that's what I should have had in there. So next time I do some, I'll do that. Square there, and we can just mark one up. Sometimes it's the easiest way with a rebate, just so that you're not doing it wrong. So easy to get confused. Use the old, oops, make a mess trick. So take that line down there. So we can hold that against the thing there, and then how deep does it want to be? Take it off 12mm that way, and we're going to take off There's going to be 16mm deep. So 16mm deep. I have to admit, I'm loving this Incra lift. I don't think I could have done this with my old rouse table. It would have taken me all day by the time I adjusted everything. And we might as well use these as well. Some nice little hold downs. Okay, we're tantalisingly close to having it there. So I'm going to set this to about 15 degrees to fetch the rain off the strengthening bar. So it's keeping the rebate against the fence. We'll put a slope on there. Two sides, so we've got the two different size rebates, which means then it's not going to stick together quite so much with the propolis, and your hive tool will be able to crack any seal you need to. And what I've done is I've put one together here, just roughly, and actually I did have to redo some of the top rebates actually for the top pieces, because they were just a little bit tight, because what you want is a frame. I know this is a super frame, not a brood one, that doesn't matter, same width. You want it to go in quite easy and have a little bit of play. Nothing wants to be super tight. And before it was just a bit too tight, and I thought, it's not what I want to be messing around with, especially got bees buzzing around. So there we go, we got that sorted. Now I need to get some glue on this and get this pinned together. When I first bought these, I wasn't quite sure how to assemble them. So I was putting those side pieces in first, down, and then putting the rails on afterwards. I find it easier actually to do these rails, so put it together like this with glue, pin it, and then put the side pieces in, and then you can kind of mess about getting it just the perfect height with your frame runners on. So let's get a brood box together. Okay, before we put the side pieces on, oops, got too many in there. Let's put on our frame runners. Just have them in a bit. These have already come pre-holed, but the holes are too big for any nails I've got. They go through nicely. There we go, so we've got a frame runner on that one. Remember to add a bit of glue down the housing joint. Potentially these are a little tight on the housing. Oh, they're alright. Then we need a frame. I'll just knock it down so they're nice and flush. Maybe put some pins down there now. So there we go, we've got a few brood boxes made in a national. So these are just your brood boxes and where your queen is going to lay her eggs and your bees are going to kind of breed from. So probably the most important part of the hive. It goes nicely with the floor that we've just made. Nationals aren't exactly easy to make, but it's quite good fun. If you've enjoyed this video, thank you for watching, and you might enjoy a video on how to make the supers and the crown board next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.